Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Greater Cleveland Partnerships Middle Market Forum. Today, we are learning from the experts how your team can thrive and not just survive. My name is Sarah Johnson, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Greater Cleveland Partnership, and I have the pleasure of being your moderator today. We want to make sure today's presentation is extremely valuable for you. So we ask that you submit all questions by clicking the question button in the control panel and typing your question. We will do our best to answer as many as we can. We are looking forward to a great conversation today. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our generous middle market sponsors who made today's event possible. Bank of America, Cleveland Magazine, Cuyahoga Community College, Minutemen HR, RSM, and Taft Law. There's no doubt that COVID-19 changed our way of doing business. After months of navigating mask wearing, Zoom meetings, and for the parents out there like me, the unexpected side job as a homeschool teacher, organizations like yours began to shift to a new normal. While traditional ways of doing business have evolved over the last year, the mental hardships of leaders and their teams were often overlooked. So much has occurred this past year beyond the pandemic, and we cannot forget the stress this has created for leaders and their employees. This stress and anxiety contributes to the overall well-being of a person and their ability to perform their job. So what can we do, and how can we support our teams now and moving forward? We have an amazing panel today with 3 experts to help lead this discussion. I'd like to take a few minutes to have the panel introduce themselves, and I'm also going to ask each of you to share when you learned the importance of self-wellness and how that impacted your professional journey. Let's start with my buddy, Dr. Ellen Burns Cooper from Improve Consulting and Training Group. Ellen?
Hello, Sarah. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I'm Ellen Cooper, and I'm with Improve Consulting, and I work with teams across the U.S. And my job is really to help them be more engaging and productive in the workplace. And wellness for me, Sarah, I would love to say, oh, I read a book and I came to the realization. I learned the importance of wellness when I hit the floor. You probably hear people say, oh, I hit a wall. No, literally, I hit a floor and was immobilized and couldn't move. My body went completely over from a full straight standing up, and my knees didn't buckle, so you can imagine that was a pretty hard hit. And I decided when I came to, I should still go to work. And I went to work that day. Tammy, that is not funny. I went to work. He's saying yes. At the time, I was like, I can do this. I called Uber to drive me. I knew I couldn't drive, but I could function at work. And I realized that it was a wake-up call for me when I found that I had a concussion later that day. You know, the idea is that that day showed me that I don't even remember what that meeting was about, but I won't forget that fall. And so what was I so into going to work for? So I've learned to listen to my body and challenge my mind. My old way was go, 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 do, do, do. And I do that in a very different way now. So professionally, I went from going to 30 cities a year and playing almost every other week to now I take it easy, I do what I can, and I still add value to my clients. And personally, I learn to adjust, relax, and manage my energy.
Well, thank you. And speaking of managing energy and knowing your body, let's kick it over to Tammy Lyons from Inner Bliss Yoga Studios. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to everyone who's joining us. My name's Tammy Lyons. I own Inner Bliss Yoga Studios and am the co-founder of Believe in CLE, which is a yoga movement celebrating Cleveland. Similarly to Ellen, I had a unfortunately traumatic experience that led me to discovering how important taking care of myself could be and would be. And actually, my discovery led me to my current profession, which I have been engaged in for the last 20 years. I suffered from a 15-year eating disorder that profoundly impacted my ability to show up in the world. Upon healing from that, I discovered yoga. And so this was over 20 years ago. I realized for the first time that I could actually exist in my body in a healthy way and honor it by listening and taking care of it rather than demanding and being at war with it. It was a long journey, but I do believe that it happened for a reason. It allows me to be incredibly sympathetic and empathic to others who are going through similar challenges that may show up as any sort of addiction, and has allowed me to share yoga in a way that without having been through that, I would not be capable of. So I'm grateful for that 15-year ordeal. And I do believe, as Ellen said, that the key to personal wellness is learning to listen to your body and honor it, and understanding that through that lens, you're able to also care for your emotional well-being and the thoughts that you're allowing to inhabit your mind on a regular basis. I am grateful for the practice of yoga. It saved my life literally and has given me purpose for these last 20-some years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tammy. You're right. Emotional well-being is just as important as the physical well-being. Thank you for sharing your story. And last but certainly not least, Simon Arias from Arias Agency. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Sarah. Thank you. So I own Arias Agencies. It's an insurance agency, also co-founder of Inspiring Minds Youngstown youth program for inner city youth, and Cash Money Mentoring, a mentorship and consulting company. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, a little rough around the edges. You could kind of let your mind wander on that. Played high school football, college football at Mercyhurst, Division II, where I started 4 years at safety. Came right out into business with the same company that I'm with right now, American Income, in Cleveland, outside of Cleveland. Moved to Cleveland and had more success in my first year or two than I ever expected to have in my entire life. I think that's where I started to learn about self-wellness and employee wellness and how important that was. I watched a lot of people that didn't, I got blessed with a couple great mentors that would focus on developing you mentally, physically, and spiritually, not just financially. And I knew about the physical side of things, but I really didn't have a game plan mentally or spiritually or the internal side of things. And so I followed that guidance, and I watched people around me young blow the money and their personal life kind of blow up. And so I learned how important that was for me. And then as I started to own, right now we have 25 offices in 14 states. We have over 400 employees working with us. I've made that a focus for them, understanding that their personal life will help their professional life and will always show symptoms in their professional life, but oftentimes gets ignored. And I think that's a big edge that we've been able to have for growth, is just not only the focus on the business, but the focus on the employee side of things and the entire business and the entire person as a whole.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. While you're talking about your team and the whole person, can you expand a little bit on that? Why is team wellness so important, and why, as a manager, should you look at the whole person?
Other than the reason of, I think that leadership is all about relationships, and people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Anybody that's good, they've been around a little while and they can sense and feel if you're real or not. And if you care about them, people will do anything for you and, and be loyal to you if you're loyal to them first. And so I think we'll never be 100% successful if it's only about, how can we get the most out of this person in business, but we could always be 100% successful of how can we make an impact in this person's life and be a good steward with this person's life that has been put in my hands right now. The ultimate effect of that will be your business is going to grow, your business is going to explode, because they're going to find something in you that they've never usually found in any other business or company, that somebody actually cares about them as a person. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, your personal life, whether we like it or not, you know, we say, well, that's none of my business. What is your business? Because it comes into your business. And so the person's personal life will end up showing symptoms in their professional life. And you could either take a proactive approach to it or a reactive approach to it. But either way, you're going to have some approach to it. And I think it'll help people grow their business. And Ellen, when I said, you know, that when you said I passed out and went to work, you know, not good, you know, in a sense of, you know, may have would have been going on of you neglecting yourself, but that mindset and mentality of, you know, when I hear that, I'm like, that woman is a beast, you know, she's a savage, you know, and I think it's good to hear from people like that, because you don't get to certain levels of success without a little bit of savage in you, a little bit of push in you, and you can do it all and be able to have that same mindset with a different approach. And to wrap it up, you know, I train martial arts at more of a higher level than just somebody that dabbles in it. So I'm kind of in that world a little bit. And I've learned that, you know, if you want to be a professional in mixed martial arts, or if you want to be a professional, it's not only about training to be a professional, but the next level is, can you recover the way that professionals recover? You know, yoga is a part of recovery. Nutrition is a part of recovery, hydration, rest, all of those things. You know, when you study LeBron James, you know, since he's from the OHIO, you know, look at LeBron and how he sleeps and how he recovers. A lot of people in business don't realize how important it is for them to not only train, but to also recover. And that's a part of the whole circle of playing and performing at your best. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, so important. So I'm going to toss this out to all of you guys, but I'm going to have Ellen answer first. You guys obviously believed in team wellness prior to the pandemic. How has the pandemic affected the mental health of your teams, and how do you support them?
And Sarah, I'm seeing a lot of patterns and trends with my teams and the mental health. And the first thing is that people are not managing two things. They're not thinking about the self-care and the stress management. It is so critical. And Simon was spot on. What happens outside of work comes into work, and it does impact. So having resources for them. But I'm seeing a lot of people struggle with, you know, another piece of sacrifice syndrome. I'm noticing that people are thinking they have to do every single thing for everybody, because everybody wants to be helpful, you know, right now. I'm watching employers, they have to acknowledge, and they're not acknowledging, this was unplanned, it was disruptive, there's no timeline for resolution. That's the highest stress state. And we need very simple strategies. You would think more complex. No, we need simple strategies. But I'm seeing employees not focus on their own wellness. I'm also seeing, you know, stress factors in a few areas around the demands being put on people. People are feeling like they have to do more. They're afraid for their jobs. So job security has been a big one. I've seen a lot around effort reward balance. And these are the big stress factors that people feel as though, hey, if I am rewarded and appreciated, it'll offset the number of hours I'm having to work. So employees have to understand that the assignments, I don't mind going in and doing the hours, but people have to feel appreciated. Level of control, Sarah, has been a big one. People feel like they have no sense of control. So I have no control at home. I have to, you know, wear the mask. I have to go here during certain hours. I can't go there. And then I come to work and I have no control. And then the social support, not having a buddy at work or somebody I can talk to. That's a really critical part. So keeping the social supports in place, even virtual, the things that we can do. And then the last one I would say is the direct manager supervisor has a lot to do with our wellness and whether or not they're referring EAP, Employee Assistance Program resources for us. So that's kind of a compilation of the things that I'm seeing in the workplace, Sarah, in terms of teams.
Yeah, it's so hard in this virtual environment, and I consider myself an extrovert, and I mean, in the beginning, I was pretty excited to just be alone in my house with my 5 kids and dog and man-child husband. But as time goes on, I'm really missing the social interaction with my team and my colleagues, and it's been difficult for me personally as well. Tammy, what are you seeing? How are people relieving stress, reducing anxiety? What are you seeing in your space?
Well, my experience is directly related to the students that I am lucky enough to interact with. And what I would say as a whole is everyone comes in with a much higher level of anxiety. It is, and these are people who have tools. They have a yoga practice, a regular yoga practice. They may have a meditation practice. And on the way out, almost every single person after every single class says to me, "Thank you so much for being open. I know how difficult it is with the limitations in space and capacity regulations, but we feel so compelled to have our space available as somewhere that our students can come that's not home," which is, of course, now for many of them also their work, and step outside into a space that's held for them to detach from their phone and all the responsibilities that are being held upon their shoulders. I do feel in many ways that while there is a contagious nature to COVID-19, and of course, a contagious nature to to any illness, there's also a contagious nature to positive, uplifting, high energy states. And because we're all sitting in, our home offices, or not seeing our friends, not going to parties, not having those things that naturally elevate our state, just in general, we're in this like low level energy. And so there's a little more attention that needs to be placed on how do I recognize my emotional state from moment to moment, and when it's working against me, how do I change it? Coming to yoga is a great way, but I realize that's not available to everyone at all times. But I do believe there are very simple strategies that you can recognize and offer for your teams that they can enact when they feel that their energy and their state is low. Human connection is a natural one, but if that's not available, then how do you look into your own internal landscape and say, I need to change my state. I need to go for a walk outside. I need to do some deep breathing exercises. I need to take a nap. I need to have some water therapy and jump in the shower. I need to spend some time with my pet. There's lots of state changers I could talk about, but I do feel that is something that we could be sensitive to, is the state that we see our teams existing in.
Absolutely. And I'm sure things have probably shifted for you with many individuals not feeling comfortable coming into a studio. How have you kind of pivoted and changed your practice to accommodate?
Well, we developed a completely virtual, almost an additional studio that we were able to pivot very quickly and put into place. But if you had told me a year ago at this time that in 1 year we would live stream almost every class we offer and offer an on-demand video library of over 60 classes to choose from, I would have laughed hysterically because I don't consider myself overly techie, and resisted that trend in the past because I believe so much in human connection and breathing and moving together in the same space. But as we all know, that was not an option. And so we did pivot quickly. And so almost every class we have in the studio, we live stream and give our students the option to join us from home or at work or wherever they are.
That's great. That's so helpful. Simon, how are you supporting your team during the pandemic?
Well, just, I think kind of staying on the same track that we were already on. So my theme is mind, body, spirit. So that's what I've been trying to get out to everybody, something that I was lucky and blessed to have passed on to me, which is not just focusing on what you're doing, but focusing on your mind. What are you doing to help your mindset and developing your spirit, whatever that means to you, whether it's, it's your faith or yoga or, whatever, but just taking the focus and approach to making sure that they're taking care of themselves. It's already something that's in our culture. So just putting a focus on it. Today, for example, I went over my core, my 10 people. That's like my inner circle, and then almost that next circle that's going to be coming into that inner circle. And I went back on what their goals were coming into 2021. Looking at what were your goals, and I make them set goals in other areas other than business. And I stole this from my friend and mentor, Coach Jim Tressel, formerly of the Ohio State Buckeyes. It was called the Block O. And it focuses on what they're doing, what their family goals are, what their spiritual goals are, what their caring and giving goals are, what their physical conditioning goals are, and what their business goals are, and short-term and long-term. And then the action plans of not just what is that goal, but what is your action plan in each of these areas. And so I think even at the highest levels, everybody can use an accountability partner. So I went through, we're in March. I went through and looked at everybody's goals, made notes, and shot them each a video today on how are you doing in these areas. You mentioned that you wanted to make your wife feel more important by, sending random cards and flowers and taking her opinion on things was one of them. How you doing there? Are you doing that? You mentioned that you wanted to exercise 4 times a week for 45 minutes of cardio. How you doing there? Somebody mentioned they wanted to tithe 10% of their income. How you doing there? So just having somebody to check in with them on what they said that they wanted to do, so it's not my idea. Just having that accountability in their other areas of their life other than business. That's one approach that I've taken.
I love that approach because that just gives you a deeper connection with your team, and it just opens up their other side, which is so important as we were talking about bringing your whole self to work and the whole person. So I love that. That's a great idea. How has the feedback been from that? Does your team enjoy that accountability and making sure they set goals outside of just business?
Yeah, I did it. I did it this morning. That was that's real talk right there. So I actually have been getting the text messages and emails, as right before we came in, and so I just saw some of them, and I think if I could summarize the glimpse of what I looked at so far, it was them being excited that somebody actually followed through and held them accountable. A lot of times we'll get the goals and they go in a folder and nobody looks at them, from there. So I think the overall feeling from them that I think is they were excited. A lot of them were saying, love you, thank you, stuff like that. I think just grateful that somebody is caring about what they took time out to put on paper for themselves. And my main focus when I was sending the messages was I tried to make it more about what their personal life goals were versus their business, to let them know that I care. Because if you take care of the personal life, the business life usually follows suit. And a lot of times people in leadership, they'll joke, and they'll say, man, I should have, PhD on my door. I should be a counselor. Probably everybody's felt that has touched enough people. And, I've kind of taken that seriously as an honor, that I think, somebody counseled me, somebody has helped me, guide me, led me, still times, depending on the year, I may still need help and guidance, and people may think I need some counseling. So I think it's an honor to serve my people that way and try to just keep them accountable to their personal life goals. But it will, on accident, it's that whole what comes around goes around thing. On accident, if you focus on, how they're doing as a person, it will increase your business and the loyalty from it. In the insurance business, there's a lot of competition. There's people that are, that take competition and try to do it a dirty way, and it's to attack and try to come after you and steal your people and, and all of that stuff. And I really I'm almost insulated from a lot of that stuff. And people try to find out how you know, is it the certain level of compensation, or is it, you know, it's just like, it's the loyalty and the love in the mind, body, spirit, and caring about the person as a whole that you can't put in a compensation package. You can't put in a price tag on. Somebody actually gives it about you, and you know it, and they care. I think that again, going back to how it can help the business, you know, that's how you grow and retain people, by focusing on developing the whole person.
I love that. And my accountability partner, Ellen, who holds me accountable for all of my stuff, what are other successful tools you're seeing with the teams that you work with?
Yeah, and Sarah, even before I share some of the tools, which some will sound familiar to you, but I wonder if people want to also think about, what should I be looking for to know if I need this? Because not all people are experiencing the same levels of stress. And so I guess I would even just walk down it almost like a checklist to think about, if you're seeing kind of a lack of resources. All these are trying to trigger. So if you're seeing some of the things that Simon and Tammy mentioned, you know, how do you know when to put them in place? Lack of resource. If you're having lack of capacity, we've not been addressing unproductive behavior because it's remote and I don't know how to have that conversation. Not flexing to diverse work styles, or get the tight timelines, home stress is coming in. And then from an individual perspective, you may look around and see some things from your colleagues, like some fear-based responses, right? You know, I think all of us have heard or seen something, wow, that's not like Sarah. No, because Sarah, you've never seen Sarah in a pandemic before. That's pandemic Sarah, right? And there's a lot of lashing out, less patience, a little more frustration, but I'm also seeing the good stuff. I'm seeing vulnerability. People are sharing more. I'm seeing empathy. I'm seeing reinvention, some really cool ideas I've seen people do and come up with. So that's one side of it. If you're experiencing any of those, some of the things, these are really simple tools. I'm not joking, Sarah. They're not hard. You know me, I'm like easy breezy. I say first, listen. Some people just need to vent, right? And there's a healthy way to do it. Ask them what they need. You don't have to solve it every time. Just, you know, what do you need? Listen. I would say appreciation, not recognition, right? But appreciating them for the person. And Simon has obviously written a book on that part. And maybe you give them the gift of your time with them. For some employees, Sarah, I'm saying just reaffirm a sense of purpose. I'm no longer in the job that I'm in. It looks different in the pandemic world. Do I still add value? Reaffirming that. Giving realistic expectations. We may not be able to perform at the same level we did before. Opportunities to grow. People want to still stretch and learn. One of the biggest ones, Sarah, this will sound familiar, establishing or reestablishing team norms. What's the way we are? Is the camera on or off, right? Is it okay to miss the group happy hour because it's virtual now? Do I have to do this? So having those team norms, finding ways to stay social, checking mental, emotional, and professional health, and their tools at work. I'm sure HR probably resources help you do that. And then, you know, I would say of all of those, the one I think about the most is when we're working with teams and they're struggling, the acknowledgement that they're in a new space is sometimes enough for teams to move forward. So just a few simple things that can be done that really move the needle.
Yeah, that's great. And you're absolutely right. The norms have changed so much now that we're remote. And I think in the beginning, we were all gung-ho and had our cameras on and our hair did and whatnot. And now we're in pajama pants, a messy bun with our cameras off. So it's really important to reestablish those. As a manager who's maybe interested in team wellness but has never done this before, where would I start? And this is open to whoever would like to answer first.
I think starting with communication with your core influencers of people. You know, every office or business, you know, has a culture that is developed through the influencers of you know, who people look to, you know, to ask, do they like it? Does she like it? Does he like it? You know, who kind of got the voice or the big mouth, or, you know what I mean, or the influence over everybody. And so I would meet with some of the influencers and make it their idea coming from within. You know, what are our resources? You know, what do we have from no budget for something like this? And I feel like that's no excuse. Even with no budget, you can make some stuff happen. You know, even when people tell me I can't make it to the gym, or, you know, I don't have the money for the gym, I can show you an at-home workout that would blow your mind and takes you no money, no weights, no nothing. So what's the next excuse? And so it's coming up with the group of people that have the influence in getting the buy-in on what do we want to do for our people's wellness. You know, what do you think we could do, in bringing up their ideas and letting them come up with the game plan, and then you just facilitate. That will get you usually a lot of traction, because it's not coming from you mandating it. It's not coming from your idea. It's the inner circle, the group of influencers. We're bringing this to people together in order to get that collective buy-in.
Love that. And Sarah, one other thing I think about too is, in addition to getting the influencers, as Simon mentioned, check the environment. I always tell people that, you know, there's a quote that it sounds silly, but it really is true. You know, when a flower doesn't bloom, don't try to fix the flower, fix the environment. Most of us who garden know it's not the flower. It's the soil, it's the temperature, it's the humidity. I'm learning that. And so here's the idea: check your environment. What's going on around there? You can go as formal as taking stress assessments for your team. You can look at the factors. How are they doing in control? How are they dealing with change? So you can do those formal things, but most managers have a pretty good gut, and we may not always need that data, because you can do that, but you can also check the environment, see what's happening, listening to people. And then I'd say if you don't, it's kind of like that home version of it. Check for 3 things: productivity. Is your productivity up or down? Everybody keeps saying, I work with 60, 70 teams across the US and outside. Helen, is it time to send them back to work or not? I need them in the office. How's your productivity? Some teams are actually doing better away from the office. Maybe there's a hybrid. So I check how much is being produced. I check cohesion. Do they still have each other's backs? How well are they working together? And then the third simple check would be resiliency. Do you have regrettable loss? Are people turning over? What are you losing in terms of retention? So even just checking for those 3 will let you know how far you're off track. And then you can start looking at implementing some of the other resources.
That's great.
I would go back to what Simon said as well, in terms of the influencers, because if we remember the contagious nature of human energy, if you can instigate a few people who are influencers to maybe even start something that is grassroots within the culture of the organization, whether it's like, you know, let's all try this workout app and, you know, share with each other how it's going, or let's all try, you know, eating whole foods, you know, not like the store Whole Foods, but unprocessed foods, you know, something that you can get 1 or 2 people, 3 or 4, depending on how big your organization is, to get excited about. And then it just naturally grows, and we all want to be part of something bigger. We all want to be part of something that's moving in the right direction. And I also, this is a little side note, a few minutes back, but while we're in this virtual stage and the 4 of us are having this experience, so when you're in a Zoom or, you know, whatever platform you use, and you're looking at yourself while you're talking, so there is sort of a weirdness about that. We're not used to standing and having a conversation and looking at ourselves while we're doing it. No one seems to acknowledge this. I find it really disconcerting. So what I found with my own team, and I have a very small team, so not necessarily similar in nature to those of you who are watching, but I do find a phone call can be actually more intimate than talking to somebody on a Zoom, because we're a little more vulnerable, because we're not looking at ourselves in the mirror, essentially. And what I love is, so the person I'm talking to, we're both outside walking, and we've got our AirPods in, and we're having a conversation that feels just a little more natural and less weird, because we are able to really share with each other on a vulnerable level without having this sort of weirdness of looking at each other and ourselves at the same time. So I wanted to offer that. I do think a good old-fashioned phone call is really powerful right now when we're not able to be together in person, even though it seems like this is, you know, this is better, or even a combination of both.
Yeah. And Tammy, I have to say, I learned to turn the camera off a long time ago. I started noticing stuff. I'm like, why does my neck look, what happened to
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh my goodness. But if I'm in a normal meeting, I wouldn't notice it. I'm like, is anybody noticing this stuff? And people are talking to me, Ellen, I'm staring at myself going, this is not good. I got to get a cream for that. And then I just turn my camera off and ask my teams to do the same thing, Tammy, you're right. But I did want to share one more tool because I'm finding people are saying, Ellen, stuff is out of my control. And this is a really, really simple one. It's just asking people to walk through it. It's just a process. You don't have to make it over cumbersome, but even something like that, like with the, say the camera, or I don't feel like I'm in control of what's happening with my vendor or whatever that is. I just ask them, and I know it's 8 steps, but it's simple. What's the issue? I don't feel comfortable on camera, right? What do you think is causing it? Well, because I keep looking at myself and noticing wrinkles I didn't know were there. Okay, what are your options? Oh, I guess I could turn it off. I could blur the camera. I could sit further away. You know, what resources do I need, right? What initial action will I take? How long will I give it? Timing. And then outcomes and adjustments. So how did that work? Kind of like Simon's process. So how did you do? Oh, Ellen, that didn't work. All right, let's make some adjustments. And then we go loop that again. But just stop. What's the issue? And work through that. I found to be really helpful because now people gain back some control. And that's what a lady said to me, Ellen, I've lost all control of my job. I don't get to do anything. Everybody tells me what to do. I gave her this process and she goes, okay, I got some control back. You decide how you respond to these situations. And a simple tool like that can help a lot of employees.
I think that's great. I also like what you were saying, Tammy, about changing the environment a little bit, like maybe having a call and going on a walk, because I'm sure, like everyone else, I get so tired, just physically tired of looking at my screen all day. I got glasses now, which I've never had before because my eyes are going, and it would just be nice to like get out and completely change into the environment because, you know.
Yeah. And wait, I want to say one more on that one, Sarah. It goes back to Tammy's point. If I can say this to everybody,
Yeah.
don't, and I think Tammy, you're saying this too, you don't have to feel the need to be on video for every call. We wouldn't have videoed in quote the pre-COVID world. And so people are feeling the need to video for a 10-minute call, which makes it longer if you got to work through technology. Just what am I trying to resolve? What would be the best way to do it? Maybe it's just an email, maybe it's a quick meeting, but I'm getting Zooms for 6:30 in the morning, 7. You don't get all this at 6 in the morning, right? It's a lot going on. And so just, I think we feel obligated to have to always use it when it's a wonderful tool, but we want to be careful not to overuse it.
I agree. So let's talk a little bit about balance. I think balance is so important, probably now more than ever with everything we have on our plate, and I am guilty of living an unbalanced life. How can we help our teams become more balanced? What kind of tools do you guys have in your toolbox to help with this? We can start with Tammy.
Well, I live this challenge. I do have a family, teenagers, and a business that actually is in a state of growth because we are needing to pivot and move in different directions. And I have a spouse who I adore, and all the other little pieces. And so I live the constant question of, am I showing up for everyone in the way that I really from my heart want to show up for them? And I think the thing that I could offer is an old adage, but it is so true. If you take care of yourself, then you can show up for everyone else. And I find the moments that I have regret over the way that I have showed up for my team or I've showed up for my kids, it's usually a moment where I haven't done anything for myself, and I have maybe not slept so well, so I'm tired. Maybe I just haven't taken some time to be alone. And those are the moments where I end up in a state of regret, which is ugly. No one wants to spend any time there. And so I've gotten better at planning ahead and strategizing. Where can I carve out a half hour for myself to be alone in nature? How can I carve out a half hour to be on my yoga mat, not teaching, because I'm teaching so much right now, which I'm not complaining about. I realize I'm very lucky that happens to be my job, but my own yoga practice has suffered. And how do I take, some time to sit and journal? For me, how I have arrived at the best balance so far is I do get up very early. I try to be up around 5 o'clock, if not a little earlier. I have a meditation practice that I do religiously every single morning. It's not always pretty. I'm not saying that I sit tall and still like the Buddha for 2 hours, but I try to do a 10-minute meditation practice, and then I journal. I have a writing practice that I developed at the beginning of COVID, and I really believe it has saved my sanity through being closed and having, losing half of my staff, to applying for the PPP and the stressful nature of that, and then not getting it, and then applying again. I mean, just all of those unknowns that we have drug ourselves through over the last year. My writing practice is the thing that I would say has saved me from going off the deep end. So you don't have to be a great writer, but sitting down and just allowing yourself the space to get it on paper is so therapeutic. I highly recommend it. And so the balance, I think, I kind of diverted a little bit, but the balance, I think, comes from carving out the time for yourself and then deciding how do you want to spend it.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've literally just started the last couple weeks trying to carve out time for myself. As you guys know, with 5 kids, that's nearly impossible. So I also get up early, as you do. But what I struggle with is when I do that, I feel guilty. Like I need to get over that hump of feeling guilty, because I feel like if I'm doing something for myself, I'm not doing something in a different area. Any suggestions on how to get over that guilt?
You're just making an investment in yourself. That I think that's, I don't say that from a place of I've accomplished it, but I do believe intellectually and experientially that the way you get over the guilt is you remember over and over and over you are investing in yourself. And then you just show up for everyone so much brighter. I'm sorry, Ellen.
No, I think the same thing. And Sarah, I've gotten over that. I mean, I'm not shy about restricting and protecting my time. I will say no in a minute. You'll call me, nope. And I don't give you an offer, an explanation. I'll say it nicely. I put a little soprano in my voice. Oh, no. But I also say, Sarah, if I do this for you tonight, I'll be saying, if I say yes to you tonight, I'll say no to my family. And no one is ever going to challenge me on that one. And I told the team the other day, it was a last minute request because of lack of planning. I said, if I say yes to you, I'm going to say no to my own personal health right now. I can't stay on the phone to 10 o'clock when we started at 7 a.m. So no, I can't do that. And the idea is that I don't feel guilty about it. I mean, I used to, so I had to fight that, because what I tell people, you don't want an unrested Ellen, right? I'm working for you. You're my clients. You want me rested, and I need to be able to do that. So yeah, I have no problem with saying no. And not even offering an explanation sometimes. You can wait on the phone. Like somebody called the other day, can I do this? I said, no. And so, are you still there? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I'm still here. And the answer is still no. But I also might offer something optional. I may say, no, I can't do that, but how about this? I can't read the whole document, but I'll look for themes and you can have someone else proofread. I can't get it today, but what about Thursday? So just being able to know that I teach prioritization. I can't break my own rule. I have to be on my own priority list. I looked at my list weeks after week, and guess everybody was on there but me. No way. So no guilt.
That was really well said, Ellen. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Simon?
I
How do
think
you,
a lot of what they've echoed. So the two things that stand out to me is self and schedule. So self, it's that whole thing. I don't know if you've heard about, when you get on an airplane, the first thing they tell you to do, is if there's, in the event there's a lack of oxygen, the mask comes down, please put the mask on yourself before assisting any elderly or any small children. So that sounds selfish. Why do you put the mask on yourself if there's elderly or small children? It's because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. If I put the mask on myself, I could save the whole plane, but I can't save anybody if I don't save myself. And so I think to be selfish is really to be selfless, because it takes focus to be your best self. Because not only does Ellen's clients maybe not want to see an unrested Ellen, but maybe her friends, or if there's, children or a spouse or somebody involved, like you don't want to see an unrested husband, wife, parent, whatever. And so I think understanding that you're doing it for them, not to them, and how much it will affect your performance. So I think if you eat properly and hydrate yourself properly, a lot of times people get headaches and they think they're tired, and it's really not because they just have a headache or they're tired. It's because they're eating things they shouldn't be eating, or taking in some things they shouldn't be taking in, and lacking sleep. And so for that, they feel like crap and they're not performing at their utmost ability. We like to tell people, we want you to be business athletes in a sense. So, we want you to treat yourself like an athlete would, in a sense. Not that you need to run sprints or, be ready to, bench press X amount of pounds, but, eating clean, taking care of yourself is going to elevate your performance. And then scheduling and prioritizing. So everybody's urgent can't be your urgent, which is what, Ellen was speaking to. When sometimes people say balance, they think of, balance, if you look at it defined as like just putting two equally weighted objects on something to balance it out. You got to know what your role is. If I spend 40 hours at home with my family all day, I'd be doing everybody a disservice personally for my role, because that's not my role. My role is to hunt that and to provide for our family. Doesn't mean I neglect at all. It just means that I can't, balance. Sometimes people think they're supposed to be doing everything equally weighted. I, like Tammy, also get up early in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, mind, body, spirit before anything starts. So I'm in the Word. That's just my thing. Don't have to be anybody else's. But I'm in the Word of God early in the morning, reading scripture. I'm in prayer. I read books in the morning, listen to podcasts, audio books, things of that nature. And then I do get exercise in before I ever start my day personally, because I don't want to take the time out later on in the day to do those things, because I'd be taking it away from my family when I do get home, and they're all sleeping when I'm getting down like that in the mornings. And so you brush your teeth in the morning, right? Because if you don't, then your breath stinks when you start talking to people. If you don't brush your inside of yourself, that is going to also stink when you start talking to people. I look back on my life and I was less patient with people, more, angry with people, harsh in less patient in dealing with things when I wasn't tending to myself properly, because I wasn't brushing my teeth, so to speak. So scheduling is huge. When do you want to spend time with your kids? I read a book and said, well, you schedule one-on-one appointments with your team or with your business. When's the last time you scheduled a one-on-one appointment with your children, or with your wife, or with your spouse, or or whatever? So everybody's given 168 hours in this country. The president, Oprah, LeBron, Tammy, me, everybody, we got 168. You hear time is money. So how do you spend your time is like, if you had $168, how do you budget that money? And so how do you budget your time? And I think if you properly put it on paper, like Tammy was talking about, if you schedule it properly in where you want to spend your time, then it's about execution, discipline to execute, in setting boundaries like Ellen was talking about. If people are calling you, you don't have to respond that very moment. You don't have to text back that very moment. It may need to be scheduled. They want to talk to you. All right, let's schedule for next Thursday or 2 weeks from today. Everybody's urgent can't become your urgent. And if they don't understand that, that's on them. All you can do is do what you can do. So scheduling and taking care of yourself.
And Sarah, I want to add one more to balance that, in addition to the things we talked about, the eat, sleep, and the physical activity. But there's also the mindfulness part and balancing that. I'm noticing, earlier you said, what are we noticing? And I'm noticing people are unbalanced to their reactions. They're going to really big extremes. Sarah always, or she never. I'm like, whoa, we got to also balance how we're thinking. So I do check-ins with myself throughout the day, a lot of self-talk. Okay, Ellen, calm down. Is it that deep? Seriously, people are dying right now. Calm down. It is not, your camera's not working. So what? They know what you look like. Calm down. And you got wrinkles anyway. Let it go. It's just, I have to talk myself through it. Practicing gratitude has been the thing. In addition to Tammy writing it down, but I do gratitude at the end of the day. What's the one thing I'm most grateful for? It's a 1 minute or less practice. Ooh, Simon's not gonna like this, or Tammy, best French fries ever. Or it could be that day, wow, I got through all of my work and it's 4 o'clock and I'm done. So the gratitude, but also having people reframe and reshape how they see things. Oh, I have to stay at home. I will correct people all the time. You get to stay in that beautiful house. How much is that mortgage? Now you're just getting the benefit from it. Or, somebody said the other day, she calls you all the time. Oh my gosh, she calls all the time. I said, I'm honored she wants my opinion, right? I have to reframe because we have to be careful going to the extremes and then changing the questions that we're asking. A guy said something not so nice the other day and they said, why aren't you upset? Everybody says, what's wrong with him? I said, I asked a different question. What might have happened to him? So I'm looking at him with empathy. I'm listening differently. You're looking at him with just extreme mad, right? And so I think just the mindfulness, thinking about the gratitude, checking in with ourselves and managing our behavior. We're in high stress states and all of us, our behavior probably could use a little tune up, and just making sure that we're looking at it from different perspectives as well. So I want to cover that with balance too.
That is so important. I really appreciate you saying that. We do have a couple. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I just want to add one more quick thing as a takeaway. So when we're talking about tools, things you can share with your employees, a completely underappreciated and under-recognized stress reducer that is free and can be done anywhere is 3 intentional deep breaths. And I know we hear it becomes like cliche, but it actually works. And it's something that you can encourage. You, of course, can't make someone do, but the simple act of closing your eyes and taking 3 intentional inhales and exhales. And it doesn't have to be done in any fancy way. You do it however you want. It all works. The breath is available to us at any time to relax the nervous system. One of the quickest ways to relax in any given state is to close your eyes and take 1 deep breath. If you can do that 3 times, it's got triple the power. So I encourage that very simple, free. You don't need anything. You can do it anywhere except if you're driving. And it's powerful. And if you can give it some meaning, like I'm dedicating these 3 breaths to, I'm dedicating this, this first breath to showing up as my best self. I'm dedicating the second breath to taking care of myself. I'm dedicating this 3rd breath to being tuned in to the divine, and whatever that source is for you. And that ritual of 3 intentional breaths, however you want to charge it, whatever value you want to give it or meaning is up to you. But the body responds, the nervous system responds, and then of course you have the emotional and the spiritual outcomes that just completely change the moment. Similarly, sitting still and closing the eyes, you don't have to call it meditation, you can call it stillness. Sit down and be still. Lay down and be still. those two things are just undervalued tools that we all have available to us in any given moment.
I agree with you 100%. And I used to not believe that, but since I've been home for a year with my family, I've been using it, and I'm telling you, it does work. I took quite a few deep breaths yesterday when my husband was ripping up the first floor. So yeah, it does work.
But Sarah, not like this.
Oh no, I was calm. I was zen. I was zen, Ellen. I was not heavy breathing. We do have a question that was submitted, and just for the attendees still on the line, if you still want to submit a question, just click on the question button and type your question in the panel. This one is for Simon. When you talk to employees about things outside of business, do you get any pushback? I imagine some employees being resistant to that if they want to separate work from personal life.
I really don't get any pushback because I try not to demand anything on anybody. And I take a calmer, cool approach to what's going on and a long-term approach to what is going on typically. If I see something that needs to be done in their personal life or that I think I can help, I'm not looking at it like, all right, how can I fix this dude's problem today and give him all the list of things that he needs to do right now. It may be like, all right, this may take me a year. How do I just warm up and develop this relationship right now to where I may be able to start to speak into his life or her life to where they allow that openly because of the relationship that I have, with that person. So I want it to naturally come about. I want it to be their idea. It may be in some goal setting areas, but I try to develop that relationship piece with them. And I think the relationship comes if you just serve that person and they know that you genuinely care about them, then I think they'll be open to your feedback. And especially if you live by example. It's a lot of pressure to be a leader in that respect because everybody's looking at you at all times. You have to be that example, almost like a parent. Leadership is a lot like parenting. And so it doesn't mean that you always, can't swear or you always, can't have 2 glasses of wine, but maybe you shouldn't be ripped around the kids and maybe you shouldn't be MFing around the 5-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's can you hold it down as a leader and try to walk in the example area, because people do what they see more than they do what they hear. And I think if they watch you from example over time, they'll give you permission to lead them.
That resonates with me in more ways than one, for sure. I know we are nearing the end of our time. Is there anything else that you guys want to share with the audience before we close? Any words of wisdom? Simon?
This is, I think mostly Cleveland folks, right? Greater Cleveland Partnership. I think if we could all just take a deep breath and celebrate the fact that the Cleveland Browns have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers twice and in the playoffs. I was a witness to the last one in Pittsburgh, married to a Pittsburgh girl. Hallelujah. Okay. And we have a legit chance at, I was legit sitting there against the Chiefs thinking we might win the Super Bowl here. I haven't had that feeling since, I don't think I've ever had the feeling, matter of fact, now that I think about it at 37. So Cleveland, there's never been a better time to take a deep breath and celebrate life and say we get to, because we have a winning football team and we actually have some respect. We actually have some respect. And so that's what I would close on, is say this is a good day. This is a good year. I live in Pittsburgh. I'm married to a Pittsburgh girl, and I have Pittsburgh family members over here, and I'm always been the butt of everybody's jokes, but not this past year. And so Cleveland, everybody should be celebrating that.
Yes, I agree.
Good.
It's a great time to be in Cleveland.
Yeah. And I guess I would say too, I guess my parting words would be take an energy audit, because some people are going, oh, and I don't want to shut it down at 5 o'clock. I mean, I love what I do. So I take an energy audit. And if Tammy calls and it's 7 p.m. and I've been working since 7 a.m., I go, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, Tammy, let's talk. Or not, Tammy, I need some me time. And so taking that energy audit, and then that's for ourselves. And I guess the guidance I would give if we're thinking about others would be, you know, when you're looking at it from their perspective, we want to be empathetic, right? And you don't have to go to all the way to every level of empathy. Sometimes it's just cognitive empathy. Sarah, I understand. It's never happened to me. I can't say I feel your pain. I understand. Then sometimes I feel your pain, Sarah, that happened to me. But we don't always have to feel the need to sacrifice ourselves and go to the compassionate level of empathy and say, oh, well, let me help you out with that. So just understanding, at least practicing be curious enough to be cognitively empathetic to say, why did that happen? Why is she feeling that way? Why doesn't she want a camera on? I think it would change how we react to people, just changing how we reframe our thoughts and behaviors. And I will also say, go Browns. Awesome. And all other Cleveland teams as well. All of them. All teams.
Excellent. Tammy, any parting words from you?
My parting words would be to always remember, whether it's the relationship with your team or your spouse or your kids or your friends, once all of our basic human needs are met, once we have food and water and shelter, the most basic need that we have as a human being is to be seen. And that being seen is sometimes even more important than food and water. How we see each other right now is different, but we can still make the effort to see, and then also allow ourselves to be seen, because that opens our heart and brings out the best in us.
Thank you. And I just want to say an extra thank you to Tammy, Simon, and Ellen for joining us today. I really appreciate all the great information you shared and a lot of tools that I am going to try to incorporate into my daily life as well. And we hope everyone on the line found it engaging and informative. If you have thoughts to share, please reach out to us. And if you're interested in any other events or GCP membership, visit us at gcpartnership.com. This concludes our webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.